Hello everyone, welcome to the first episode of the series Diplomatic Dialogues by GISR, and today we are honored to have with us Ambassador Tacan Ildem. Ambassador Tacan Ildem is the chairman of Ildem, Center for Economics and Foreign Policy. He is the former ambassador of Turkey to Netherlands, NATO and the OSCE, and he is the former Assistant Secretary General of NATO. Ambassador Tacan, it's a pleasure, it's an honor for us to have you here with us today. Welcome to the show, and let's dive into it right away. Ambassador Tacan, one thing that has been dominating the headlines recently, especially in the wake of Donald Trump's sort of taking the role in the US presidency, has been the stability of the transatlantic relationship. There have been a lot of talks that the United States is perhaps trying to pull out of Europe, and because there is a narrative that the United States would want to perhaps pivot towards Asia. And so there are a lot of speculations that the United States will perhaps be moving out of Europe and perhaps even out of NATO, which is going to test the strength of NATO and perhaps even future sustainability of the organization. Can we have your views on what you think about the future of NATO?
Well, first of all, it's a pleasure to be here in Doha and be the guest of this program. NATO is one important political military organization and alliance that has been in life for more than 75 years. The Washington Treaty was signed in 1949. And at that time, the founding members were 12. Right now, the members are 32 countries, and they share the same values. We are talking about more than 1 billion people that NATO provides a safe and secure environment for them to be in peace, but also enjoying the freedoms which are inherent and enshrined in the preamble of the Washington Treaty. It is democracy, individual freedoms, and rule of law. Now, I agree with you that there are some discussion after assumption of the presidency by President Donald Trump in the United States for the second time, whether there would be some sort of a rupture between the United States and other allies. I have to tell you that throughout the history of NATO, there was different moments in which allies were not eye to eye with each other on specific issues. Take, for instance, as early as 1956, the Suez Canal disagreements. And from the recent history, 2003, war in Iraq. And we saw that allies were not in full agreement. But nevertheless, the beauty of NATO is that with all these diverging views, still allies could be able to come to a consensus decision. The strength of NATO is for it to have regular consultation in the heart of its work. So every day, NATO allies in different committees, and certainly every week at Permanent Council at ambassadorial level, are discussing, deliberating issues of concern for their own security and for all of them. And I believe that those differences will be overcome by consultations, and the upcoming NATO summit to be held from 24th to 26th of June in the Netherlands will show us that NATO is fit for purpose, and with its continuous adaptation will have a future. Of course, European allies will need to step up their efforts in making their contributions in terms of defense spending. And right now, with the 2014 Defense Investment Pledge, allies were expected to allocate 2% of their GDP and 20% of that to new equipment. And it was quite an important step for burden sharing. But in the Netherlands, they will also be declaring, as we understand from public statements, that it will not only be a pledge, but a commitment for their defense spending with the aim of 3.5%, which eventually will lead to 5% by 2032. NATO, for the future, will be focusing more on emerging and disruptive technologies, innovation in the heart of its work, and also, since we are in Doha, I have to also highlight the importance of engaging with our partners, non-NATO countries, but very important contributors to security. We are talking about so many different transnational threats and challenges emanating from different directions and domains. Cyber, hybrid tactics, in which disinformation campaigns are quite important to be vigilant about, requires all of us, and terrorism is yet another threat in addition to Russia, as is explained in the NATO strategic concept of 2022. These are two threats, Russia and terrorism, and we need to cooperate with our partners with a view to contributing to secure, safe environment, because security in the MENA region, Middle East and North Africa and Gulf region, are intrinsically linked to the security of transatlantic area. And it is a demand-driven process, our engagement with partners. So whatever they want to take the value added of NATO and its capacities and building their own capacity and strengthening them, this collaboration is very important. And for also NATO, it is very useful for its situational awareness and getting to know better the region's concern. We need the thinking and perspectives of our partners. These are so valuable. I'm sure that, as I said earlier, for the future of NATO, the upcoming NATO summit will solidify our feeling and trust to NATO as an important political military alliance that not only serves as a regional organization for countries of transatlantic area, but also for our partners.
Thank you so much, Ambassador Tacan. I understand the argument you're making about the strong and rich history of NATO and the fact that has withstood the test of times, and this is just another blip in the long history, and it will probably emerge stronger out of this. Having got views on this, I believe one of the most important geopolitical events of the modern times, which is shaping the geopolitics of the entire world, and especially the security architecture within the Europe, is the ongoing war between Russia and Ukraine. I'd like to get your views, your perspective on where you think is the trajectory of this war heading and how it's going to shape the architectural security in this region.
Well, first of all, we have to remember that in 2014, Russia illegally and illegitimately annexed Crimea, which is part of Ukraine. And it also started with aggressive actions in eastern part of Ukraine in the Donbas region. We recall the hybrid warfare initiated with little green man on the ground without insignia of any country, and it created a new phenomenon to be in place, the hybrid warfare. What I'm trying to come to is that in 2022, the second invasion of Ukraine, together with the first one, is in clear violation of international law and all principles that underpin European security. That's why all countries condemn this act of aggression and also continue not to recognize the claimed annexation of Crimea, but also the four oblasts that Russia declared were part of its territory. What could be done? Both sides in this more than 3 years of war made every effort to change things on the ground. It reached to a stalemate situation. We have to recognize and applaud the heroic bravery of the Ukrainian people in defending their territories and their sovereignty. And we want territorial integrity and sovereignty of Ukraine to be restored. If it is not restored, it will set such a bad precedent for the future that any country by use of force can change borders. For the European security architecture, as you asked me in your question, for the future of it, first and foremost, every country, including Russia, should abide by the fundamental principles of, that underpin this architecture. First and foremost, respect to territorial integrity, sovereignty, independence of states. Second, inviolability of international recognized borders. And third, respect to sovereign decisions of states to which military arrangement they can join, whether to belong to a military alliance or not. And these are, in fact, enshrined not only in the founding documents of OSCE, but also in the United Nations Charter. So, first we need to reach a ceasefire, to see that both sides reach a ceasefire. This bloodshed should stop. But the ceasefire should not give a time for Russia to regroup forces and to resume attacks again. It should not legitimize what it had done by occupying a sovereign and independent country's territories. Therefore, the moment there is a ceasefire, there should also be a deterrent monitoring force on the ground to make sure that both sides comply with the rules of the ceasefire. And negotiations should start. It may be a long process, longer than reaching a ceasefire, but with the aim of reaching a settlement with the return of the occupied territories back to Ukraine. Certain modalities could be agreed upon by both sides as to certain territories as regarding the way they would be administered, so that different populations, Ukrainian and Russian, could enjoy their democratic rights. And security guarantees should be provided to Ukraine. And those countries who would be providing security guarantees may also wish to contribute with forces to monitor compliance on the ground, and they should definitely be part of the negotiating process, because take for instance my country, Turkey, it can contribute as a facilitating role with its capacity to reach out to the leadership of both Ukraine and Russia. And it has proven its utility in the Black Sea grain deal and exchange of prisoners. Therefore, the negotiation format should be larger than what we saw in the mixed format. We shouldn't give any sort of opportunity for Russia to exploit the circumstances to convert this hot conflict to a frozen, protracted conflict, because protracted conflicts are doomed to evolve to a hot conflict eventually, which we need to prevent. And it is for stability of Europe. In the heart of Europe, we are witnessing a war, and it is with devastating repercussions. First and foremost, the losses of life of so many people, and also destruction of the country. Then, of course, we need to see international community get mobilized for the reconstruction of Ukraine. And for European security, we cannot write off Russia from the outset. We need to bring Russia into the European security architecture, provided that Russia complies and abides by the rules, first and foremost the principles that I mentioned, underpinning the security architecture so far. If they change their pattern of behavior and distance themselves from the ongoing aggressive behavior and show their readiness to be part of a secure, safe European security arrangement, that's fine. And of course it requires developing new legal and political instruments in terms of confidence and security building measures and arms control arrangements, because right now all these arrangements have collapsed. They are dysfunctional, be it CFE Treaty, Open Skies Treaty, or Vienna document.
Thank you so much, Ambassador Tacan. I think there can be no disagreement on the fact that what's happening in Ukraine right now is devastating. Lots of human lives are being lost, and it is urgent that the suffering is brought to an end. Now, talking about suffering, one other region where we'll perhaps agree that it has been immense suffering which perhaps has not been seen in several decades is Gaza, where innocent human beings are being massacred on a daily basis. And now there are reports of people dying of starvation. We're talking about really small kids and babies and families, civilians who are being affected by this. Not just that, of course, the region has been witnessing some tremendous geopolitical events, starting of course with what's happening in Gaza right now, but then we also see developments happening in Syria.